Welcome to Unbelievable Reality Podcast. I'm Roy Arthur, and just another opportunity to have a chat about some more unbelievable realities right now. Start off with a bang, because this is a bang. You thought Pam Bondi might be a really shitty attorney general. You know, folks, we ain't seen nothing yet. Todd Blanche, to no surprise, was confirmed right along party lines 50 to 49 as the new Attorney General of Department of Justice by the Trump administration. If you don't know a lot about Todd Blanche, I don't have enough time in this podcast to go into this guy's history, but the term ambulance chaser comes to mind right off the bat. Sycophant would be second, and then Toady would be third. But more importantly, this is a dude that really chases the money, specific to how it works for the Trump family business is a nice way to put it. This is a criminal enterprise, and by having Todd Blanche as the Attorney General, there is no more Department of Justice, folks. So we might as well get our heads around that. And, you know, one of the things that was talked about during the campaign prior to the election by Kamala Harris and Tim Walz was what would happen if Trump was reelected. And unfortunately, all of it has come true, really. I mean, literally everything that was said during the campaign, we're living now today. Starting with Doge, and I'm going to get to Elon Musk in a minute and SpaceX IPO, but I'm going to talk about that in a different way than I have been on Instagram and TikTok. I got a bone to pick about Mr. Musk, but pretty much everything we were warned about has now come to pass. And it began with Doge basically taking a sledgehammer to the federal government. Did you know that 2 million federal employees have now been fired? 2 million people have lost their jobs. So if you take the average American family, which is 4 people, that means that 8 million lives were affected in the first 30 days of the regime economically. And that's minimum best guess. These were all, one of the things about federal employees that always made them so attractive to the banking industry was secure employment. These are what they call AAA note carriers. So when these are the people that go in to get a mortgage, and the bank is falling all over itself to see how they can write the paper. 2 million of those people just lost their job. Now, what's coming up for us in another way is a implosion of our housing market in the U.S. A housing bubble has been forming quietly while we've been conveniently distracted by all these unbelievable events that are happening and that are altering our reality in real time. But there's another storm out there that's brewing that may be even worse than the AI bubble, which is a real thing. If you're not up to speed on circular financing and the AI scheme that's currently been going on that's really propping up our economy right now, you, once again, need to do a little bit of research and see how that's going to affect you directly. Because when this bubble pops, and it is going to pop, there's no way around it. There's just literally no way around it. The Great Recession, the dot-com bust, hell, even back to the Great Depression of 1929. This upcoming pop could be the most catastrophic financial event in the history of this country. It will be catastrophic. It's just a matter of how much, how bad, I think would be a better way to say it. So what I've tried to do in previous podcasts is to give a historical reference to events that have happened before in the US that are currently happening again. And we as a society have this wonderful collective memory loss problem, call it early onset dementia, that seems to affect all of us. So what happened a day ago, or God forbid a month ago, is so yesterday's news we completely forget about it. But the people that lived through the Great Recession and the people that lived through the dot-com implosion, we remember. And it was catastrophic. Lives were destroyed. And anything on that level happening again right now with the United States economy already teetering on the brink. I mean, let's get focused on our reality of $4 a gallon minimum for gas. That's going nowhere. And in addition to that, what I talked about in a previous podcast was that the government passed a legislation which now allows ExxonMobil, Chevron, pick a gas station, to use gasoline with 15% ethanol now instead of 10%. And prior to what's been going on right now after the start of the Iran war and this closing of the Strait of Hormuz, it was kind of rare for the gas companies to mix that much ethanol into gas, into unleaded gas, because ethanol is expensive. It's made out of corn, and it's expensive to manufacture. So when ethanol becomes cheaper to manufacture than gasoline, thus prompting the increase in percentage allowed, that's a warning flag just being ripped back and forth through the afternoon air. But it has a longer term implication to us normal people, especially if you drive an older vehicle. Ethanol basically sucks as a supplement to gasoline. It burns poorly. It burns at a lower temperature, and it really fucks up engines, especially engines in older cars. Because what happens, and this, I don't have an entire podcast to give to the negative effects of ethanol on an automobile, but let me put it this way. What ethanol does is it basically strips all of the pollutants that gather in your fuel system and then delivers those all through to your engine. So what normally would be caught up in the gas tank or in your fuel filter gets passed through and it goes straight into your engine. And what that affects is the pistons, the injection system, I mean pretty much all of it. And over time, and I'm not talking a lot of time here, we're talking 12 months, 18 months of using unleaded, regular unleaded with 15% ethanol. Bottom line is people's cars, especially older cars, anything over 10 years old, they're gonna all start dying. That's what's gonna happen. They're just gonna kill the cars. Which is awful convenient because now all new cars sold in the US starting January 1st, 2027, if you remember correctly, all have biometric sensors, surveillance installed by law. That goes into effect 1st of January. Kind of convenient that all of the older cars are going to start dying and therefore forcing people into newer vehicles who are now equipped with full-time surveillance. And this is facial recognition, lip reading, recording all of your conversations, eye movement. It's madness. Look up the new surveillance law for automobile sales for 2027 and see what you find out. because you won't believe it from me or from other people until you actually do a little bit of work yourself. I just eliminated 60% of my audience because people are too fucking lazy to actually do their own work. All of this being said, the long-term impacts I've talked about before with the Iran war still have yet to completely come home. Gas prices, food prices, diesel prices, energy prices, your electric bills, etc. All of this is going to continue to go up. Which leads me to AI and the data center explosion across the country. And which will also lead me to mass surveillance, Flock, Palantir, Axon, and other companies. But right now everybody's focused on AI data centers and water consumption. And that's a legitimate concern, especially in the West. The reality is that the western half, basically, of the United States has been in a mega drought for over 2 decades. We're now going on 3 decades of the driest that we've ever recorded in the United States. And that's west of the Mississippi. But specifically in the Southwest, that's California, Arizona, Nevada, Utah, New Mexico, West Texas, Colorado, those states have been in a horrific drought. Most people don't understand that all of the water in the Colorado River and the Rio Grande River originates in the mountains, the Rocky Mountains of Colorado and southern Wyoming. That's where all that water comes from. And with reduced snowpack year after year after year, that water supply has been diminishing, while populations in all of these states have almost doubled in the last 25 years. You can look up those statistics as well. Adding data centers to these already stressed states and cities in this mega drought is just adding one more straw into a cup that's already running low. That's the point. That's why people are freaking out, and justifiably so. And one of the other, what I see a lot in comments, especially on Instagram, TikTok, where people's attention span is that of a gnat, is, well, we have groundwater. Actually, no, we don't. In addition to augment the loss of water in the southwestern states from the reduction in the Colorado River flows, we have been pumping groundwater out of the underground aquifers to meet demand for the last 25 years at a rate that is 4 times the ability of those aquifers to recharge. So not only are we running out of water above ground, what people need to understand is we're running out of water underground. And data centers are kind of potentially the straw that might break the camel's back. And really, what is the need for all of this compute? Because that's what data centers are. It's data. There's no way around realizing it's to store all of the data being gathered through surveillance. And when people immediately shut down when they hear the term surveillance, don't be aware of what it means. We are being monitored and surveilled everywhere now. Through our televisions, through our phones, now to be through our cars. Oh, and by the way, did you know that the car manufacturers are taking that data that they're getting from your vehicle about how you drive and selling it to your car insurance company? So they know everything there is to know about your driving habits. How does that make you feel? You feel like it's okay to speed now? That's the idea. Back to the main topic. We are under constant surveillance everywhere we go. The addition of new technology like Flock, and let's be clear, Flock's safety is not license plate reader technology. That's a fucking joke. And it's not about public safety. Flock has not demonstrated any effect on crime rates at all. Not a single data point that they can use in argument that they're making us safer. And that's their whole selling point to every community, 5,000 of them now in the United States, for selling cameras, is we're going to make your community safer. So see how they've already skipped over the license plate reader bullshit. Now they're talking about community safety. When you start installing surveillance cameras on playgrounds, you're not keeping people safe. You're watching. That's it. And there's already been numerous accounts of abuse of that technology. And to my mind, this is the greatest threat that we face in this country right now, which is hard to believe considering the level of corruption that we are enduring, and it's about to get worse, which takes me back to Todd Blanche becoming the new Attorney General. What does that mean? And then I'm going to get back to surveillance, so don't lose that train of thought. Todd Blanche ties into the surveillance state because we have a regime in power that only wants one thing. It wants to turn this country into a white Christian nationalist country. Period. The end. And it wants to get rid of all political opposition. Period. The end. So you can now assume that the Department of Justice is not going to prosecute any financial crimes. So if you get screwed by your bank, too fucking bad. You get screwed by your credit card company, too fucking bad. You get screwed by the car maker that sold you the car that blew up and killed 3 of your kids, too bad. You get discriminated against at work. If you're a woman, you're sexualized, you're traumatized, you're harassed, too bad. Forget about it. You will never ever see any kind of justice coming out of the federal government. What they will be doing is prosecuting and persecuting anybody the regime sees as opposition to this white Christian nationalist takeover of our country. Trump's already issued an executive order that calls people just like me who don't agree with this current administration or us turning into a Christian country. We've already been labeled as domestic terrorists. If you go to a protest, to protest ICE, you are being labeled as a domestic terrorist, and you are being filmed, and you're going into a database. Now, that may not be used against you today, but that data is forever. Do you understand that? It's forever. And if this regime ever decides that you're a big enough threat to them, they will find you. And they will come after you. And as far as anybody expecting any kind of legal aid in regards to the people that ICE has already murdered, Renee Good, Alex Petty in Minnesota, do you realize that of the 12 people that have been murdered publicly on video, not a single charge has been filed? Not a single one. Not a single one. And there will not be. There will not be. And what that does, what Todd Blanche being assigned or confirmed as our new Attorney General, that's given the green light. Be aware, people. to ICE agents that there will be no consequences for their actions. None. What do you think that that's going to empower them to do next? Yeah, it took a minute of silence to really get your head around that. They are already operating with impunity, and now they know for sure that nothing is going to happen to them. So, kidnapping American citizens, too bad, so sad. Murdering people on video, who gives a fuck? Illegal search and seizure, who cares? We're going to do it anyway, because who's going to stop us? There's another podcast coming after this one where I talk about everything that's wrong with the Democratic Party right now, and how there's no way it's ever going to get fixed, and how it's time for that party to become something else or go extinct. Because the Democratic Party is part of the problem. When they've had opportunity to do things to slow this roll, they've turned chicken shit. And they've let us all fucking down. And they're going to keep doing it because they're in on it too. And if you don't realize that by now, you better wake up. Two-party rule was always a flawed system. It was sold as a system that works because they'd have to, quote, compromise. That's bullshit. They don't have to compromise, and they aren't. And they won't. Until we have a legitimate third party in the United States to fuck up this two-party system, nothing's going to get accomplished, and we, the people, are just going to keep getting fucked. Back to data centers and surveillance. You see how that now ties into Todd Blanche being the new Attorney General? And why that might be a really big concern for us? And why this proliferation of data center buildouts is a major concern, not just environmentally. But while I'm sitting here filming this podcast, literally the entire globe is on fire. And the one issue that we should be focused on more than anything else, our changing climate and environment, is totally being ignored. You can expect that to continue. That's another thing. The Department of Justice will not be enforcing any environmental laws. So somebody goes into the national forest in your backyard, because a lot of folks that live in the West literally have national forest in their backyards, and starts cutting down trees, and you call the Forest Service and say, hey, do they have a permit to do this? And the Forest Service says no. You say, well, what do we do? They're going to tell you there's nothing you can do. They're just going to cut those trees down, load them on trucks, and go make money. And there isn't anything we can do, because the Department of Justice gets to pick what cases it decides to prosecute. And there will be no prosecution, because this Republican, right-wing, conservative, white nationalist, racist regime doesn't give one fat fuck about the environment. All they give a fuck about is making sure that the richest of the rich keep getting richer. Someday, a decade from now, 2 decades from now, 100 years from now, history is going to look back on this time and this specific regime. And it's a regime. It's not a political party anymore. It's a cult. And it's run as an authoritarian regime. Todd Blanche's confirmation proves that beyond a doubt. Someday, history's going to look back on this as the most corrupt period of time in the history of this country. And man, there's already been corruption scandals the Teapot Dome, the railroad scandals, the electrical scandal when electricity first came out. There's already the stock market scandal, which led to the Great Depression. This is going to go down as the most corrupt period of time in the history of this country. And if we survive it, somebody's going to talk about it later. Right now, we're in the process of just trying to survive. And that's a scary proposition if you're a parent. Because what is being built is a surveillance system in this country where everybody is under control by the government all the time. And our children are being born and conditioned into that reality now. Sit with that. Everything that we hear, everything that we process that comes from media right now is about the here and now. What no one ever talks about is our children. And what future are we building and leaving for them? And if you step back from our everyday and look at a decade from now or 2 decades from now, ask yourself, do you have any idea what that world's going to look like when there's no water? When the air's too polluted to breathe? When we don't have national forests anymore? When we're just constantly under threat? When there's digital currency, etc. What does that look like? How unbelievable is that going to be? This country is supposedly about individual freedom. The right to bear arms, the right to say what's on your mind. First Amendment, Second Amendment, number 1 and 2. That's gone. That's going away. And if you don't understand it now, you should figure it out pretty goddamn quick before it's gone forever. That's a lot in 130 minutes podcast. I hope you're able to stick with it. There's so much more to come. There's so much more I want to talk about. But I'll carry that on in the next episode of Unbelievable Reality Podcast. Once again, I am Roy Arthur. These are my opinions based on the best facts that I can find and substantiate. If you don't like them, then don't fucking watch. If you do, check out Roy Arthur P on Instagram. Check me out on TikTok, Spotify, Patreon. Support, subscribe, and comment. Feedback makes the world go round. We'll talk soon.